Hi, I'm Mark Taylor with Extreme Aerial Productions. I've spent the last 18 months chasing these regulations, going to seminars, meeting industry professionals, cinematographers, production companies, attorneys, you name it, trying to navigate through the complicated FAA space that we all find ourselves in. I mean, come on, after all, we're basically flying a toy until you get into the big rigs and the heavy lift stuff, but essentially we're flying a domestic toy. And that's what happened to me 18 months ago. I realized the potential of a toy. We started to get some commercial work, we started to improve our equipment, and then bam, the FAA rules and regulations came about. This video for everyone watching is very, very particular. I want you to watch if you're a production company about to hire someone, maybe even hire us. I want you to learn the lengths that we've gone through. DPs, directors, the guys out there who don't have their 333s are thinking about getting their 333s. What exactly is entailed? I encourage you to watch all the way through this video because I'm going to blow your mind with what you need to do to be a commercial operator. And for a lot of you, you're not going to want to do it. And that's okay. For the rest of us who've been passionate about this, who followed the changes and accepted the FAA guidelines and the new goalposts that we have to play within, there's an inordinate amount that we need to do. And this is what this video is about and why I'm so passionate. I want to educate you how to do it right. Just because I'm going to tell you a bunch of stuff that you don't like doesn't mean I'm wrong. Take counsel from what I'm about to tell you. Listen to the thousands of dollars of exceptional advice that I've paid for and use it for the betterment of our industry, because it is an incredible industry and we're very lucky to be playing in this space and able to work with some of the clientele that we have and have built the pedigree that we have, and we're very proud of it. So please continue to listen and learn what is going to be needed on your next job, all based around safety. So a lot of you out there are struggling with dealing with the FAA guidelines, mitigating the language. Heck, even the FAA is struggling with, well, how do we interpret this? How do we implement it? And how do we find those who are blatantly breaking the rules that we've set out there? I know a lot of it's frustrating, trust me. I've spent 18 months banging my head against the wall. Hell, I'm a Taurus. I don't want anyone telling me what to do. I'm the stubborn of the stubborn. But once you come to accept what the FAA is about, which is the protection of the public, it's for the safety of those people that you're working with and those who are innocent to where you're working, who may inadvertently come into your location. Those safety guidelines have to be paramount and have to be put out first. I mean, let's be honest, guys. For everyone watching out there, we know it's a bit over the top to make you go and get a pilot's license to fly a toy. I did it. We have to do it. And there's a reason when you go through that process, you understand the mechanisms and why they think the way they do. I mean, good grief, the first time I took a flight, I couldn't believe how many airplanes there were, how noisy it was up there. And I'm going, it's incredible with all the aircraft flying around. More bits don't fall off of them. Now I understand the obsessive nature behind the FAA, the regulations, the rules, the procedures. They're there for a reason. And as drone operators, we have to exemplify those. For production companies, you need to give us the extra time we need now to make sure that you're safe. The last thing you want is a drone operator having an issue and shutting down the set for 2 or 3 days because they missed something. So let me walk you through the steps of what you actually need. And some of you are going to go, sod this for a game of soldiers, I'm not interested. And that's okay. Go find something else to do. Because I'm telling you, I want to be in this space for a long time. For those of you who've gotten your 333, you've waited your 6 to 8 months and you've got it, congratulations. But please, stop telling everyone you meet you're legal. You are not legal. You're not legal until you get a pilot's license. And if you guys want some great resources, how to get your sports pilot's license within 10 days, wait till the end of the video and I'll give you a link of a company you can call who can help you do it. Me, I had to take my test in a Remos. I couldn't fit in a 152. It was the biggest aircraft that I could fit that was still in the sports pilot's class that allowed me to get my sports pilot's license. Yes, it's crass. Yes, it's overkill to fly basically a toy, but I did it because we have the business and it justifies it. So going through that process, I learned about weather. I learned about reading airspace. I learned about restrictions. I learned about AGL, all the things that are actually important. My new Alta, for example, I have to know CGs, I have to know weights and balances, I have to know flight times, I have to calculate all these things. The same thing I did on a cross country. So it's been an important learning curve for me, and I'm glad that I did it. So you've got your pilot's license, great. You've got your 333. But you better make sure the person that's actually operating the aircraft is the pilot in command. A lot of companies applied for a 333, a lot of movie houses. Now they're the ones flying instead of having the pilot in command be the actual FAA aviator. So for you companies hiring people, you real estate agents picking on companies and trying to ascertain what is necessary for you to hire a legal person, there's a checklist at the end that I'll give you. But most importantly, you have to understand that the PIC, the pilot in command who's operating the aircraft, they're given a 333. But better make sure that the 333 is for the aircraft they're flying. And here's the rub. You waited 6 to 8 months for your 333. You went and got your pilot's license. Awesome! And then you have to wait 6 or 7 weeks to register your aircraft. Huh? What? Register the aircraft. It's a toy. Wait a minute. I have to get an N number. What's a bloody N number? Isn't that the same number on a 737 on the Southwest Airlines I just took to Las Vegas? I have to have one of those. Yeah, you have to register the aircraft. And you better show up on site with the tail number on, with a valid registration that matches your 333. Just because I'm a pilot and I have a 333 doesn't mean I can fly the local production company's Cinestar 8. It's not on my exemption. So production companies, you need to make sure that your operator can actually handle the aircraft. But wait a minute. How do I insure them? Oh, that's right. Bunch of you guys out there who have a 333 who are working on your pilot's license, who are telling clients that you're legal when you're not, because it specifically states in the 333 a student pilot isn't a valid operator, you're getting general liability insurance. Now, I'm not going to spend the next 20 minutes explaining the different caveats and the ability to bind or non-binded insurance policy because it's rather boring and that really isn't going to keep your attention to get to the rest of the really cool stuff I got to tell you about. So make sure you have a UAV, a UAS, an aviation policy. Yes, they're expensive. Yes, our company, with the number of aircraft that we have, notice I didn't say drones, is as much as most tour operators have for 3 or 4 Cessnas. Because there are limits of liability, there is exposure that needs to be available. And a general policy, even though your insurance agent can write it for you, doesn't mean it's bindable when you have a claim. And that's what you have to look for. Any of you out there with a big property to film or wanting to do a mini commercial or work for the production industry, make sure your guy can at least put you as a named insured. And don't stand for the obligatory $1 million policy. Go for 2, go for 5. It's about protecting your client. That if you have a flyaway, and we all know, guys, anyone watching this, it's not if, it's when. We need to make sure that we're covered. So now we've talked about insurance, now we've talked about 333, now we've talked about being the pilot actually in command. Production houses, you can't call us up 5 days before and tell us we have to fly, because under our 333, we're not allowed to fly within 5 miles of a towered airport, within 3 miles of a non-towered airport, 2 miles or 1.5 miles between an active heliport or a hospital with a helipad, 250 feet from a school. We're not allowed to fly in national forest. We have to get special permission. and it can take 2 to 3 weeks to get special permission. And I know your production companies are telling me, well, our client didn't make their mind until last week. We have to set those expectations early, okay? And as you're going through this process, it's just education. We're learning as fast as you guys are learning. Let's get booked out for next year so we don't have any stress. You've got to choose the set. You've got to choose the location. Consult with your UAV specialist to make sure we can get you the clearances, the height that you want us to fly at, the time you want us to fly at. Did you know you have to file a notice to airmen? Huh? What the hell is a notice to airmen? Yeah, we have to file 24 to 72 hours before the flight. We have to file with the FAA and get a NOTAM number that alerts all the aircraft flying in the vicinity of what we're doing, when we're doing it, and how far we will be flying from our location. Our logs have to be filed with the FAA at the end of every month. We have to track everything that we do. We have to fill in maintenance logs. We are treated, flying a toy, just as if we had a Cessna 172. So with all that being said and done, you've got all of this. We turn up to the site. Remember, the FAA is about safety. We as professional operators want to protect our client. When the FAA fine us for an infraction, they don't just fine us, the operator. They fine the production company. They fine the end customer. They bring them all in to find out who was responsible for the lack of safety. So what I'm about to show you is what I've talked to local FSDOs about, and colleagues and my attorneys. By the way, if you want 2 of the best attorneys in the country, I'm going to give you resources at the end of the video to talk to them. You've got Sarah Nilsson, who's writing the International Drone Law book for all of the countries in the world. She's a professor at Emory-Riddle. We've got Jonathan Ruprecht, who has personally taken on the FAA and is setting standards and statutes for drone aviation for us, the operator, not the other way around. So when you get on set, or to the house that you want to film, or to the event. By the way, let's talk about events before I show you some stuff. I'm getting really fed up of commercial operators flying high school football games. The FAA says you cannot fly within 500 feet of a person or personal property without a motion set plan. A motion set plan allows you to create a closed set with an additional set of circumstances that protect everybody and give everybody a safety briefing and allow you to fly closer than you would normally. It's blatantly irresponsible to fly over people without their permission. And even when you get their permission, it's not the permission between you and the client that is the issue. It's the permission to fly over people full stop from the FAA. So again, another legality, another delay in time. You must go and spend the money in getting a motion movie set plan and get it approved. And it takes time. So, we turn up on set, right? Here's the first thing you really want to do. Have a radio. Listen to the tower. Be able to communicate, hear the traffic that's going on. Know if there's an aeroplane coming in that's doing something different in your area as well. It matches your NOTAM. FAA examiner shows up and sees that, you get a brownie point. A couple of things you're going to want beforehand. Get your attorney, like I mentioned. You're going to need a permission for their image to be publicly broadcast. That's the very first thing. You're going to need a very lengthy contract that talks about UAV operations. It talks about your policies for collection and for data and what you do and the safety that you follow. This is an ironclad contract that you need to have your client sign so they understand. And you'll notice if you have an attorney who is in the drone space, there's specific language right here that has to be on all the documents. Did you know in real estate that prior to flying your property, you need to give the neighbors notice and notification and give them a proper disclosure? You need to have the property permission on file prior to flying. Again, safety, like a safety briefing. When an examiner shows up, if you get ramp checked, you're going to need a pre-flight, post-flight check. Any pilots in the audience? You kind of get where I'm going with this? Oh, gee. I didn't pull out my Alta manual because it's 3 times thicker. Here's a POH, Pilot Operating Handbook. For the regulars in the audience, we call them user manuals. It's kind of what we never look at. We go online on a PDF. The emergency procedures portion, which in this case is laminated on the back. So for pilots, can't fly without a POH. You can't fly without your emergency procedures. You got to brief everybody. You better make sure that you have your pilot's license and your driver's license. Now I know some of you are already laughing and going, look at that guy with a funny accent. This is nonsense. Well, it isn't. This is what they want to see that sets the standard above and beyond the safety for all of the people that are in the vicinity of you operating. You need your airman's certificate, copy of the 333, and for those of you who don't have a 333, there are up to 52 provisions in a 333 of things that specifically apply to you. Your blanket COA, what it covers, what it doesn't cover. Some of them are different, they're not just blanket. You have to pay your attorney to do an SOP. The FAA want to see your standard operating procedures manual matches your 333 and your motion movie set plan and what you're going to do. Like, how did you determine the airspace? What program did you use? Did you use before flight? Did you use AirMap? Did you use SkyVector? Did you use for flight? How did you determine that you were in the airspace that you're in? What are your safety protocols? What do your barriers look like? Barriers? What the hell's a barrier? Yeah, that's right. Did you know that anybody coming in the vicinity of your location who hasn't briefed, who isn't part of your motion movie set plan, you need to land the aircraft immediately, give them a safety briefing, give them the opportunity to move 500 feet away or come behind a barrier that will provide them sufficient protection. Now the jury's out. What does that barrier look like? Well, I'm going to show you a picture in this portion of the video, either here or here. I haven't decided where I'm going to put it yet. Of a cool barrier that we picked up that's 21 feet wide and 12 feet high. That when people come by when I'm doing real estate, I stop, I land, I have them stand behind me, I have them not talk to me, I have them talk to my visual observer. Oh wait, a visual observer. What the hell's that? That is another member on staff that is there specifically to keep people away from asking you questions. Think of it this way, you're the PIC. Do you get to talk to the captain anymore on the 737 on your way to Michigan? Do you get to knock on the door and interrupt him? No. You have a visual observer to protect you from that. Oh, and for the guys out there that are flying dual operator, good for you. I love flying dual operator. There's one problem. The dual operator, the camera operator, who might be the DP on set, who is insistent on wanting to take over controls of the camera, if that affects your point of view, they too must have a pilot certificate. If they can anyway influence the controls of the aircraft, they too must have a pilot certificate. Anyway, back to manuals. You heard me talk about NOTAMs. Better have a notice to airman on file. Copy of the map, who you called it in with, initials, have that ready with you. You also might want to make sure that you have your insurance documentation on you. No different than your registration and insurance. Excuse me, Mr. Taylor, do you know why I pulled you over for speeding? Do you have your driver's license and insurance? Yes, officer, I do. Same thing with the FAA. And then for all of us who love our technology, we really resist going back to a manual book. But here's the book by Jonathan Ruprecht. If the FAA confiscate your equipment, you need a paper backup. This is what you fill in every time you fly, just like your logbook if you're a pilot. And this is where I keep my maps of all my flights, all my NOTAMs, and keep it in here, and I send off my logs every month. And just for good measure, I have a wind gauge. That's what you need to have on set. That's the standard of care, the contiguous nature of safety that we need to put across wherever we're flying. We need to take the time to educate people. Now, movie producers and DPs and production companies, if you've lasted this long, which I hope you have, I need to talk to you about something passionate. When calling us up because you pitched the client last year and now they're committed to aerial and now they're committed to 4K, or even better, having us fly a Carbon Dragon with a polymorphic lens or whatever it might be, please don't call me up and tell me that your guy isn't legal anymore and then tell me your budget's $500. Good UAS insurance, as good as you can get, such as the insurance we have, with the lowest amount of out-of-pocket if we have an accident, is still 10% of the rig. We're not going to fly for less than our deductible. So find it in your budget, find it in your heart if you pitch the client to figure out a way to make it work. So please, don't let the guys out there who aren't able to provide you with all this, who aren't able to prove everything, or the guys that are telling you, well, it's coming, I've applied for it. That doesn't work. Help us keep the industry where it needs to be today. A solid, good, professional, passionate industry of people that care about safety. So that's my little speech. That's my soapbox. I hope this has helped you. There's a checklist at the end to help you make the decision of whom you wish to hire. Don't make it about price. Make it about quality. Make it about talent. Make it about people who love what they do. And there's tons of us out there. So, if you've made it this long, congratulations. I'm going to introduce you to Sarah Nilsson, Jonathan Rupicht, Joe Ernster from Bullock Agency for Insurance. I'm going to give you a whole myriad of resources, where I got my barrier, where I got my collapsible traffic cones, you name it. I'm going to put it out there, so hopefully we can help bring the industry up. If you have any questions, my phone number's here. Feel free to call me. If you guys want to know about the school where we can use powered chutes now to get you within 10, maybe 11 days with the Arizona weather, get you a sports pilot's license and get you onto your production, please reach out to me. It's certainly a privilege to be in this incredible space of aviation. I love it. I love the end result, and I certainly like helping all of you out there. Feel free to reach out to me. Extreme Aerial Productions is out. Thank you.